With Reason's effects right at the forefront of our mind here, let's take a look at a really interesting technique we can use to get the most out of them. I like to call it dynamic effects returns, and it's really useful for anything that's like a top line, monophonic, like a lead or a vocal or a lead guitar that you want at the forefront of your mix, and you perhaps want to treat with a really heavy spatial effect like reverb or delay, but you don't want that effect to suck the life out of the actual performance. Often when you want to apply these heavy delays or reverbs to create big, great atmosphere, it can mask the dynamics and the performance and the original feel of the audio. So I'm going to work with a lead synth here. I'm in a house project, and it's sort of a lead top line synth, and let's just play it back. Now you can hear that there's phrases, there's groups of phrases. So it's these gaps in between that I want to concentrate on, and as soon as we start applying the effect I'm going to show you, it's going to probably mask the overall sequence. So what do we need to do first? Well, in this mix, we've already got quite a few send and returns, but I want to create a new one. So if we go to the rack here and go right up to the top where our send and returns reside, we can click on the master device, the master section, and I'm going to go to create effects here. So if we go to studio effects, and I'm going to pick Rob Paton's reverb, because we haven't actually covered this really. We looked at his distortion briefly, and obviously you could use the RV7000 here, which is the Reason stock reverb, but I want to use something a little bit more interesting. So if we go to something like this, and I'm going to really ramp up the size and the reverb length. So we've got a very, very long reverb, and hopefully when we go back to our mixer now, we can see the Rob Paton reverb in slot number 4 here. So our high synth is the one we've got soloed. We can activate the return, and let's have a listen to this. As you can hear, it's huge, it's very atmospheric, and it's obviously too long. I'm really exaggerating the effect here to demonstrate this technique. But how can we tame it? Well, of course we could turn it down, but we lose the atmosphere that we're trying to create. We could shorten the length, sure, but then we're going to turn it into a smaller reverb. And maybe there's going to be occasions where you want these long, heavy delays and long reverbs, but you just don't want this masking effect and this wash that's occurring. So how do we tame it in another way? Well, we can grab the return and we can start to apply some sidechaining. I'm going to go back to the rack, and I'm going to apply a M-class compressor, and we're going to flip the rack. Now you can see the sidechain, and you can see this is a pretty complex project. There's a lot going on, so you have to really sort of keep honed in on the area you're working on. But there's a sidechain input, and it's empty currently. Now the kick drum is coming out of this redrum, and I'm already sending a lot of sidechains to other devices, and you can see that there's spider mergers and splitters here. I'm using them to send various versions of the kick drum, if you like, to various sidechain destinations. Now I can see a spare one just here. And what's happening is the kick drum's being sent to one of these spiders, and then it's being split, and then it's going to another spider, and that's being split. It's just a way of getting the same route, the same sidechain signal to various locations. Now you can hear that the sidechaining is ducking in time with the kick drum. So what we've done is we've created a really live link between the kick drum and the reverb return. Now often you'll do this with synthesizers or bass, but it's not often done with effects. And this can create a really organic link between a rhythmical element in your mix and your effects returns. And of course what it means is that you can turn these up quite a bit louder than you usually would. Now another interesting thing we can do is use the actual instrument itself as the sidechain source. So rather than using a kick drum, which is pretty traditional in electronic music production, we can use the actual synth we're using. So here we are with the synth, and let's go to the mixer. And we probably want to use the next send. So I'm going to highlight the send number 5 here. And in fact, let's go with send number 8. Just make sure that there's nothing there. We go with the last send. And then I'm going to go back to the rack. I'm going to find the master section, flip it. I'm going to find effects send. That's number 8 there. And we're going to put it in place of this sidechain input here. And then we can play it back. Now what's happening is, as I've altered it a little, you can hear that the sequence itself is creating a gain reduction. And the parts in between the phrases, the reverb breathes out. So we get this sort of groove-filling effect that's completely different from the kick drum being the sidechain source. So either using the original synth or original instrument as the sidechain source, or a percussive element like the kick drum, you can create living, breathing, organic, dynamic effects returns. So hopefully this is an interesting effect for you. Try it out yourself in your own mixes. Try it with lots of different elements like lead guitars and vocals as well, because it does work extremely well with these. Next up, we're going to move into the last few chapters and start to concentrate on mastering, and I'm going to give you some advanced mastering tips and techniques to try out.